When Sophia, a struggling server with shelved dreams of architecture, meets tech mogul Evan Reeve at a glittering gala, one question, "Do you believe in destiny?" ignites a story neither of them expected. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. The grand ballroom of the Halston and Reeve Tower sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the glitter of expensive jewelry. Sophia Aranda adjusted the collar of her black server's uniform and took a deep breath. Just one more night of this, she told herself. One more night of smiling at people who looked through her, and then she could pay this month's rent. Remember, nobody talks to the guests unless they speak to you first, the catering manager reminded the staff. Move like ghosts, serve and disappear. Sophia nodded, picking up a silver tray of champagne flutes. At 27, she'd mastered the art of invisibility at these events. 5 years of catering gigs had taught her how to blend into the background, how to anticipate needs without being noticed. "I need you on the east side," the manager said. "That's where the VIPs are gathering. Don't spill anything on anyone worth more than $1 million. He laughed at his own joke, but Sophia just smiled politely. As she moved through the crowd, Sophia couldn't help but admire the architecture of the room. The glass walls revealed the San Francisco skyline, twinkling against the night. Before, her father's stroke. She'd been in her 3rd year of architecture school, dreaming of designing spaces that made people feel something. Now those dreams were packed away like winter clothes in summer, still there but not practical to take out. "Excuse me," a woman in diamonds called out, snapping her fingers without looking at Sophia. "Is this the good champagne or the stuff? For the regular guests?" "This is the crystal, ma'am," Sophia answered with a practiced smile. The woman took a glass without thanks and turned back to her conversation. Sophia moved on, weaving between groups of Silicon Valley executives, venture, capitalists, and the occasional celebrity. This was the annual Halston and Reeve Innovation Gala, where the tech elite gathered to congratulate themselves and make deals worth millions. She'd just finished serving the last glass from her tray when she felt someone watching her. Not the usual, dismissive glance of someone wanting service, but a steady gaze that made her turn around. A man stood slightly apart from the crowd, tall, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see right through the room's pretensions. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit that somehow looked different from everyone else's, simpler but more elegant. He wasn't smiling, wasn't working the room like the other executives. Instead, he was watching her. Sophia turned to head, back to the service area for a refill, but his voice stopped her. "Excuse me?" She paused, turning back with her professional smile in place. "Yes, sir." But instead of pointing to her empty tray or making a demand, he asked, "Do you believe in destiny?" Sophia blinked, caught completely off guard. Was this some kind of joke? Rich people sometimes played games with the staff for amusement. "Only when I'm not holding a tray," she replied, surprising herself with her honesty. And then something unexpected happened. The serious man smiled, a real smile that softened his whole face and reached his eyes. "Fair enough," he said. "I'm Evan, just Evan. No last name, no title." But Sophia recognized him from the company website she'd studied before the event. Evan Reeve, the CEO himself, the host of this entire gala, known for his brilliant mind and his avoidance of the spotlight. "I should get back to work, Mr. Reeve," she said, lowering her eyes. He looked surprised that she knew who he was. "Of course, sorry to keep you." Sophia hurried back to the service area, her heart beating faster than normal. What a strange encounter. Luckily, these types of people usually forgot servers as soon as they walked away. "You look like you've seen a ghost," said Marco, another server filling his tray with fresh drinks. "Just tired," Sophia replied. 3 hours to go. She picked up another full tray and headed back into the crowd. This time she was assigned to the west side of the room, where people seemed more interested in the open bar than champagne. She was grateful for the lighter tray and the distance from wherever Evan Reeve might be. But halfway through her rounds, she turned and there he was again, standing near a potted palm, watching the crowd with that same intense gaze. When he saw her, he moved in her direction. Sophia pretended not to notice, offering drinks to a group of women discussing the latest IPO. But when she turned again, he was right there. What did you want to build before the world made you stop? He asked, taking no drink from her tray. Sophia almost dropped the entire thing. Excuse me? You were studying something before. I can tell. What was it? How could he possibly know that? She'd never mentioned it to anyone at these events. Architecture, she found herself saying. But that was a long time ago. Someone called out for champagne, and Sophia used it as an excuse to step away. This was getting too strange. Why would Evan Reeve, CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the country, be asking her personal questions? For the next hour, Sophia managed to avoid him, keeping to crowded areas where approaching her would be awkward for someone of his status. But as the night went on and guests began to leave, she found herself serving in a quieter corner of the ballroom, and there he was again. What kind of buildings did you want to design? He asked, as if their conversation had never been interrupted. Sophia looked around, making sure no supervisors were watching. Talking to guests like this could get her fired, but something about his genuine interest made her answer. Homes, she said, not towers, places where people feel safe to come back to. He nodded slowly, as if she'd confirmed something he already knew. That sounds important. It was to me, she admitted, but sometimes life has other plans. Life or circumstance? He asked. Before she could answer, her manager appeared. Is everything all right here, Mr. Reeve? He asked, shooting Sophia a warning glance. Perfect, Evan replied. I was just complimenting the excellent service. The manager beamed. We only hire the best. Sophia, they need you in the kitchen. She nodded and walked away, feeling Evan's eyes on her back. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of cleanup and preparation for the next day's event. By the time Sophia was changing out of her uniform, most of the guests were gone, including, she assumed, Evan Reeve. She pulled on her worn jeans and sweater, suddenly aware of how different her real life was from the glittering world she'd just served. Her father was waiting at home, probably still up despite his doctor's orders to rest, and her siblings, Diego at 17 and Lucia at 15, needed help with school and a million other things. They were all counting on her. As she walked through the empty lobby toward the exit, a figure stepped out from near the reception desk. Sophia. She jumped, then recognized Evan. Mr. Reeve, you startled me. I'm sorry, he said. I just wanted to give you something before you left. He held out a small white card. No name, no logo, just a phone number printed in simple black text. What's this? She asked, not taking it. My personal number, he said, in case you ever want to finish that blueprint. She stared at him, confused. I don't understand. I fund architectural projects sometimes, special ones. He placed the card on the reception counter between them. No pressure, no expectations, just an opportunity if you want it. Sophia hesitated. This had to be some kind of trick or game. Men like Evan Reeve didn't hand out their personal phone numbers to catering staff. Why me? She asked, still not touching the card. Because you see buildings as homes, not investments. He stepped back. Good night, Sophia. He walked toward the private elevator, leaving the card on the counter. Sophia stood frozen for a moment, then picked it up quickly and shoved it into her pocket before she could think too much about it. Outside, the cool night air helped clear her head. What had just happened? As she waited at the bus stop, she pulled out the card and looked at it again. Just a number, no name, no clue that it belonged to one of the most powerful men in tech. She should throw it away. Whatever this was, charity, flirtation, some weird power trip, it couldn't lead anywhere good for someone like her, but she slipped it back into her pocket instead. The bus ride home took 40 minutes through neighborhoods that grew progressively less polished. Sophia got off 2 blocks from her apartment building, an aging complex that had seen better days. She climbed the 4 flights of stairs, the elevator had been temporarily out of order for 6 months, and unlocked the door as quietly as possible. The TV was still on in the living room, casting blue light over her father's sleeping form in his wheelchair. Manuel Aranda had once been a construction foreman, strong and full of energy. The stroke 3 years ago had left him partially paralyzed and unable to work. Papa, Sophia whispered, touching his shoulder gently. Let's get you to bed. He stirred. blinking up at her. "How was work, Mihija?" "Good," she said, helping him maneuver the wheelchair toward his bedroom. "The usual." "You look different," he said, studying her face. "Did something happen?" Sophia thought about the strange conversations, the card burning a hole in her pocket. "Just tired, Papa. Big event." After helping him into bed, she checked on her siblings. Both were asleep, Diego with textbooks spread across his bed, Lucia with her sketchbook still in her hands. The artistic talent ran in the family. In her own tiny bedroom, Sophia finally allowed herself to take out the card again. She ran her fingers over the embossed number, wondering what kind of person Evan Reeve really was. In the business news, he was described as brilliant but cold. A strategic genius who could predict market trends and human behavior with uncanny accuracy. But the man who'd asked her about destiny and dreams hadn't seemed cold at all. She placed the card on her nightstand and began her nightly routine of checking bills and making lists. The electricity was due next week. Diego needed new school shoes. Her father's medication copay was increasing. One fancy architectural project wouldn't solve their problems, and men who seemed interested in her dreams had disappointed her before. Still, as she finally lay down to sleep, Sophia found herself wondering what might happen if she actually called that number. Just to see if it was real. Just to see if destiny might be more than a word rich people used at parties. "Don't be stupid," she whispered to herself in the dark. "Life isn't a fairy tale." But for the first time in years, she fell asleep thinking about blueprints and possibilities instead of bills and responsibilities. 3 days passed. 3 days of Sophia working double shifts at the diner near her apartment, serving pancakes to morning regulars and burgers to the lunch crowd. 3 days of checking on her father's therapy progress, helping Diego with his college applications, and making sure Lucia stayed focused on school instead of her latest crush. 3 days of that white card sitting on her nightstand, untouched. "You're acting weird," Diego said on the 4th morning, watching her rush around the kitchen making breakfast. "More weird than usual." "I'm not acting weird," Sophia replied, flipping pancakes with more force than necessary. "I'm acting busy, which I always am. No, there's definitely something different." Her brother, tall and observant at 17, studied her face. "You keep zoning out, and you've been checking your phone like you're waiting for a call." "I'm expecting extra shifts this week," she lied, pouring juice for their father, who was reading the newspaper at the table. "Leave your sister alone, Diego," Manuel said without looking up. "She works too hard as it is." Sophia shot her father a grateful smile. Since the stroke, he'd become more perceptive, as if losing some physical abilities had sharpened his emotional ones. After breakfast, she helped him into the living room for his morning exercises, then gathered her things for another shift at the diner. "Don't forget I have that school thing tonight," Lucia reminded her, appearing in the doorway with her backpack. At 15, she was already showing signs of becoming a beauty, with their mother's high cheekbones and their father's expressive eyes. "The art showcase, right?" "I'll be there," Sophia promised. 6 o'clock. "You better," Lucia said, hugging her quickly before running out the door to catch her bus. The diner was busy that morning. Sophia moved between tables with the same efficiency she brought to catering events, though here the customers actually saw her, knew her name, sometimes even asked about her family. "More coffee, Earl?" she asked the old man who came in every day at 9 and stayed until 11, nursing 2 cups of coffee and reading the paper front to back. "Please, sweetheart, any more word on that scholarship for your brother?" Sophia smiled, refilling his cup. "We'll find out next month. Fingers crossed." The morning rush kept her too busy to think about white cards or mysterious CEOs, which was probably a good thing. By the time her shift ended at 3, she'd almost convinced herself that the entire strange encounter had been exaggerated in her memory. But when she got home to shower and change before Lucia's event, Diego was sitting on her bed holding the card. "Whose phone number is this?" he asked. "And why haven't you called it?" "Diego, what are you doing in my room?" She snatched the card from his hand. "Looking for my USB drive. You borrowed it, remember?" He grinned. "So who is he?" "What makes you think it's a he? Because if it was a she or a job offer, you would have called already." He leaned back, studying her face. "And you're blushing." which you never do. It's nobody, Sophia said, tucking the card into her dresser drawer. Just someone I met at that catering job last weekend. Diego's eyes widened. A rich guy from that tech party. It doesn't matter who he is. It's not going anywhere. Why not? Sophia sighed, sitting down on the edge of the bed. Because people like that don't really see people like us, Diego. They might play around, have their fun, but they don't stick around when things get real. Her brother's face softened. Is this about Matt? Sophia winced at the name. Matt had been her boyfriend. 3 years ago, when their father first got sick, he'd promised to stand by her to help. 2 months later, he was gone, complaining that she never had time for him anymore. This has nothing to do with Matt, it's just reality. Diego stood up, his expression unusually serious for a teenager. You know what I think? I think you're too scared of magic. Magic? Sophia laughed. What are you, 12? Not that kind of magic. He walked to the door. The kind where life surprises you, the kind you've been protecting us from having to believe in again. He left her sitting there, stunned by the unexpected wisdom from her little brother. Sophia showered and changed into her one nice outfit, dark jeans and a blue blouse that her mother had given her before she passed away 5 years ago. She brushed her hair. She found herself looking at her reflection and wondering what Evan Reeve had seen when he looked at her. Not the real her, surely. Just some fantasy of a poor girl he could rescue with his wealth and connections. But his questions hadn't been about money or status. He'd asked about her dreams, about what she wanted to build. Before she could overthink it anymore, she pulled the card from the drawer, took out her phone and sent a text. Destiny seems dramatic, but coffee sounds okay. She put the phone down immediately, her heart racing. He probably wouldn't even remember who she was. Or maybe the number wasn't real. Or maybe the phone buzzed with a reply. Coffee sounds perfect, tomorrow 2 p.m. There's a place called Riviera Cafe on 9th Street. Sophia stared at the screen. That was just a few blocks from her apartment, in the opposite direction from the gleaming downtown towers. Why would he suggest meeting there? Okay, she typed back, too nervous to say more, looking forward to it. Evan. She set the phone down and tried to calm her breathing. What was she doing? This wasn't like her at all. She didn't date. She didn't have time to date. And she certainly didn't date billionaire CEOs who gave out their phone numbers at galas. Sophia, her father called from the living room. We need to leave for Lucia's showcase. She pushed thoughts of tomorrow's coffee out of her mind and focused on tonight's responsibilities. That was safer. That was what she knew how to do. Lucia's art showcase was held in the school gymnasium, transformed with display panels showing the students' work. Sophia walked alongside her father's wheelchair, genuinely impressed by the quality of the pieces. There she is, Manuel said, pointing toward the far corner where Lucia stood nervously beside her paintings. They made their way over, and Lucia's face lit up when she saw them. You came, both of you. Of course we did, Sophia said, hugging her sister. We wouldn't miss it, Diego texted. He's running late, but he's coming too, Lucia said, bouncing on her toes with excitement. What do you think? She gestured to her 3 paintings displayed on the panel. They were landscapes, the view from their apartment window at different times of day. Simple scenes transformed by Lucia's eye for color and light. In her hands, their ordinary neighborhood became something magical. They're beautiful, mi pequeña artista, their father said, his eyes shining with pride. They really are, Lucia, Sophia agreed. You have real talent. My art teacher thinks so too. She said I should apply for the summer program at the Art Institute. Lucia's excitement dimmed slightly. But it's really expensive. Sophia felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Another dream to somehow make happen, another expense they couldn't afford. We'll figure something out, she promised, though she had no idea how. As they circulated through the exhibit, stopping to admire other students' work, Sophia noticed an older man in an expensive suit studying Lucia's paintings with unusual interest. Something about his focused gaze reminded her of Evan. The man turned as they approached, and Sophia was relieved to see it was just the school principal, Mr. Barnes. Ah, the artist family, he said with a smile. Your daughter has remarkable talent, Mr. Aranda. Sister, Sophia corrected automatically. People often made that mistake. She was so much older than her siblings that they assumed she was their mother. My apologies, Mr. Barnes said. Well, you should be very proud. The district arts coordinator was just here, and she was quite impressed as well. They chatted a few minutes more before the principal moved on to speak with other families. Diego arrived, slightly out of breath from running. Sorry I'm late. Study group ran over. He hugged Lucia. These are awesome, sis. The evening continued, with refreshments and a short award ceremony. Lucia received an honorable mention, which had her beaming with pride. By the time they returned home, it was nearly 10, and Sophia was exhausted. She helped her father get ready for bed, then checked that Lucia and Diego had finished their homework. Only when everyone else was settled did she finally retreat to her own room. The phone she'd left on her bed had 3 new messages. Is 2 p.m. still good for you? If that's too early, we could do 3 p.m. instead. Or another day entirely. No pressure. Sophia smiled despite herself. For a powerful CEO, Evan Reeve seemed almost nervous. She typed back quickly before she could change her mind. 2 p.m. tomorrow is fine. See you then. His reply came instantly. Great. Looking forward to it. She put the phone away and got ready for bed, telling herself this was just coffee, a single conversation. Nothing life-changing. But as she drifted off to sleep, her mind filled with possibilities she hadn't allowed herself to consider in years. Morning came too quickly. Sophia wasn't scheduled at the diner, so she spent the hours cleaning the apartment and helping her father with his exercises, all while trying not to watch the clock. At 1:30, she changed clothes 3 times before settling on a simple dress she rarely had occasion to wear. Not too fancy, but nicer than her usual jeans and t-shirt. Going somewhere special? Her father asked when she emerged from her room. Just coffee with a friend, she said, avoiding his eyes. Manuel raised an eyebrow but didn't push. Have a good time, Mijija. You deserve some happiness. The Riviera Cafe was a small place tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop. Sophia had passed it many times, but never gone in. As she approached, she saw Evan already waiting outside, looking oddly normal in jeans and a simple button-down shirt. He spotted her and smiled, that same genuine smile that had surprised her at the gala. You came, he said, as if he'd been afraid she wouldn't. I said I would, she replied, suddenly shy. He opened the door for her. I found this place online. The reviews said it has the best coffee in the neighborhood. I hope that's true. Inside, the cafe was cozy and warm with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Nothing like the sleek modern places downtown where someone like Evan would normally go. They ordered at the counter, a regular coffee for him, a latte for her, and found a quiet table by the window. So, she said, once they were seated. Do you often give your phone number to catering staff? He laughed, a warm sound that made her relax slightly. Never before, actually. Then why me? Evan looked at her thoughtfully. Because you gave me an honest answer to a strange question, and because you have a dream you've put aside for others. He paused. Am I wrong? Sophia stirred her latte, buying time. How do you know so much about me? I don't, he admitted. I just recognize the look of someone carrying more than they should have to. The barista brought their drinks, and for a moment they sipped in silence. Architecture, Sophia finally said. I was studying it when my father had a stroke 3 years ago. Someone had to take care of him and my younger siblings. That someone was me. Evan nodded, not offering empty sympathy or worse, pity. What kind of buildings did you want to design? I told you at the gala, homes, real places where people belong. She traced the rim of her cup. Not impressive glass towers, no offense. None taken, he said with a smile. Our building is actually quite soulless. I live in a converted warehouse myself. Much more character. They talked for nearly 2 hours, not about money or business or status, but about ideas, about the buildings that had moved them, about the places that felt like home and those that never could. Evan asked about her family, listening intently as she described Diego's ambitions for college and Lucia's artistic talent. He talked about growing up as an only child with parents who valued achievement above happiness. That's why I asked about destiny, he confessed as their coffee cups sat empty between them. I've spent my life following a carefully constructed plan, every step calculated for maximum success. And here I am, successful by any metric, wondering if I've missed something essential along the way. Like what? Sophia asked. His eyes met hers. Like meeting someone who sees the world differently than I do, someone who reminds me that buildings are for people, not portfolios. Sophia felt a warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with coffee. This wasn't what she'd expected at all. He wasn't what she'd expected. I should get home, she said reluctantly, checking the time. My sister will be back from school soon. Evan nodded, but as they stood to leave, he asked, could we do this again, maybe Saturday? Sophia hesitated. One coffee was a curious encounter. A second would be the beginning of something. And beginnings led to middles and ends, and complications she didn't have room for in her carefully balanced life. But looking at him, at the hope in his eyes, she found herself nodding. Saturday would work. Same time? Perfect. He walked her outside. Thank you for coming today, Sophia. It meant a lot to me. As she headed home, Sophia tried to make sense of what was happening. Men like Evan Reeve didn't get excited about coffee with women like her. There had to be some angle she wasn't seeing, but his questions had been genuine. His interest in her, family sincere, and the way he looked at her, like she was someone worth knowing, not just serving, that couldn't be faked, could it? Saturday came both too quickly and not quickly enough. Sophia spent the morning helping her father with his physical therapy, then rushing through laundry and grocery shopping before getting ready for her second meeting with Evan. So, it's a date this time? Diego asked, leaning against her bedroom doorway as she brushed her hair. It's coffee, same as last time, Sophia insisted, though she'd spent more time choosing her outfit today, a sundress she rarely wore. Right. That's why you're wearing Mom's necklace, he said, nodding at the simple silver pendant around her neck. Very casual. Sophia touched the necklace self-consciously. It was the nicest thing she owned, saved for special occasions. Don't you have homework or something? Done, and don't change the subject. Diego grinned. So, when do we get to meet? Him? Nobody's meeting anybody, she said firmly. This isn't serious. Because you won't let it be, he said, his smile fading. Sophia, we're not kids anymore. You don't have to protect us from everything. I'm not, she started, but he cut her off. Yes, you are. Ever since Dad got sick, you've put your whole life on hold. We notice. We worry about you too, you know, Sophia sighed, sitting on the edge of her bed. I'm just being realistic, Diego. Men like Evan Reeve don't end up with women like me. That's not how the world works. Maybe the world can surprise you. Sometimes, Diego said. Don't you deserve to find out? Before she could answer, Lucia appeared behind him, her eyes wide with excitement. Are you really going on a date with someone? It's just coffee, Sophia repeated, wondering if she was trying to convince them or herself. When she arrived at the Riviera Cafe, Evan was already waiting again, this time with a small paper bag from the bookstore next door. Hi, he said, smiling. That surprisingly warm smile. I got you something. Sophia took the bag hesitantly. Inside was a book, Home, a Short History of an Idea. I thought you might find it interesting, he said as they entered the cafe. It's about the concept of what makes a house a home across different cultures and time periods. Thank you, she said, genuinely touched. I've never read this. They ordered their drinks and settled at the same table by the window. This time the conversation flowed even more easily than before. Evan asked about her week, listening intently as she described juggling work and family responsibilities. Your siblings sound remarkable, he said. You've done an amazing job raising them. They are pretty great, Sophia agreed, though they think I'm too protective. Are you? She considered the question honestly. Probably, but someone has to be realistic. What does being realistic mean to you? Evan asked, his head tilted slightly. It means... She paused, choosing her words carefully. It means understanding that life isn't a fairy tale, that sometimes dreams have to wait because responsibilities come first. Evan nodded thoughtfully. That makes sense, but What if you could do both? Both what? Meet your responsibilities and pursue your dreams. Sophia laughed softly. That takes money, Evan. Something my family doesn't have a lot of. Money helps, he acknowledged, but sometimes what people need most is someone who believes in them. He held her gaze. Someone who can see what they're capable of building. The simple sincerity in his voice made her breath catch. For a moment, she could almost believe that someone like him could see something special in someone like her. After coffee, he suggested a walk. They strolled through a nearby park, talking about everything and nothing. Favorite books, childhood memories, places they'd like to visit someday. He told her about the pressure of taking over the company after his father's retirement, about the loneliness of leadership. Everyone wants something from Evan Reeve, the CEO, he said, but almost no one is interested in just Evan. Is that why you asked me out? Sophia wondered aloud. Because I didn't know who you were at first? I asked. You out because you saw me, he said simply. And because I wanted to see you back. As afternoon turned to evening, they ended up at a small neighborhood restaurant for dinner. Sophia sent a quick text to her family that she'd be home later than planned. Diego replied with a thumb-up emoji that made her roll her eyes. Over pasta. And wine? Evan asked about her architecture studies. What was your favorite project? We had to design a community center in second year, Sophia said, animation coming into her voice. I created one that incorporated elements from different cultures, with spaces that could transform for various needs: childcare during the day, adult education at night, community gatherings on weekends. That sounds incredible, Evan said, watching her with a smile. Your eyes light up when you talk about design, Sophia blushed, conscious that she'd been talking more enthusiastically than usual. I haven't thought about that project in years. You should, he said. Talented architects who understand people's needs are rare. The world needs your perspective, Sophia. The sincerity in his voice almost made her believe it was possible. After dinner, he walked her home, stopping a respectful distance from her apartment building. I had a wonderful time, he said. Would it be too forward to ask to see you again tomorrow? Sophia hesitated. Twice in one weekend seemed like a fast pace for whatever this was, but the thought of waiting longer to see him again made her heart sink. I have family responsibilities in the morning, she said, but maybe afternoon. His smile was answer enough. Sunday afternoon, Evan took her to a construction site, the framework of what would become an apartment complex near the water. He'd arranged special access through a friend in the business. I thought you might enjoy seeing something being built, he explained, as they walked through the skeleton of what would become the lobby. There's something magical about a building at this stage, full of potential. Sophia ran her hand along an exposed beam. I used to visit my father at construction sites when I was little. He'd let me wear his extra hard hat. They spent hours there. Sophia pointing out interesting structural choices, Evan asking insightful questions about her opinions on the design. For the first time in years, she felt that part of herself, the architect who never got to finish, her training, come alive again. Later, they sat on a bench overlooking the bay, drinking hot chocolate from a nearby cafe. The sunset painted the water golden pink. Thank you for today, Sophia said quietly. I'd forgotten how much I love being around buildings in progress. You have a natural eye for it, Evan replied. The way you analyze spaces, it's extraordinary. She smiled, embarrassed by the praise but warmed by it too. As they watched the sun sink lower, Evan hesitantly reached for her hand. Sophia let him take it, her heart beating faster at the simple contact. I know we've only just met, he said, his voice soft, but I feel like I've been waiting to meet you for a long time. Destiny again? She teased, but there was a tremor in her voice. Maybe, he admitted with a smile. Or maybe just incredible luck. He turned to face her. I want to see where this goes, Sophia. If you do too. The sincerity in his eyes made it impossible to doubt him. Slowly, she nodded. He leaned forward, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But Sophia found herself moving toward him instead, closing the distance until their lips met in a gentle kiss. It was a perfect moment, the kind Sophia had stopped believing could happen to someone like her. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind. Evan arranged his schedule to fit hers, meeting her for lunch breaks during her diner shifts, taking her to buildings he thought she'd find interesting, bringing books on architecture and design that they'd discuss over dinner. He insisted on keeping things simple, neighborhood cafes instead of fancy restaurants, walks in the park rather than exclusive clubs. Gradually, Sophia began to trust that he genuinely preferred her world to his. "When can we meet him?" Lucia asked repeatedly, endlessly curious about the man who was making her sister smile more than she had in years. "Soon," Sophia promised, though the idea still made her nervous. Introducing Evan to her family would make whatever was happening between them feel more real, more serious. But after nearly a month of seeing each other, Evan brought it up himself. "I'd love to meet your family," he said as they walked along the waterfront one evening. "They're such an important part of your life." Sophia bit her lip. "Are you sure? Our apartment is pretty small and—" "Sophia," he interrupted gently, taking her hands in his, "I'm not interested in where you live. I want to know the people you love, the people who helped make you who you are." She studied his face, looking for any sign of insincerity, but finding none. "Okay," she said finally, "how about dinner this weekend? Fair warning, Diego will interrogate you, Lucia will show you every piece of art she's ever created, and my father will pretend to be stern, but will actually be thrilled that I'm finally dating someone." Evan laughed. "I can't wait." Saturday dinner was a revelation. Evan arrived with flowers for Sophia, a book on engineering for Diego, an art supply set for Lucia, and a bottle of premium tequila for Manuel, who was impressed that Evan knew the good brands from his native Mexico. He fit into their small apartment as if he'd always belonged there. Helping Lucia set the table, asking Diego about his college applications, and discussing construction techniques with Manuel as if the older man were still a respected foreman rather than someone in a wheelchair. Most surprisingly to Sophia, he seemed completely at ease, more relaxed even than at his own company gala. "Your family is wonderful," he told her later as she walked him to his car. "Thank you for letting me meet them." "They liked you too," she said, still amazed by how well the evening had gone. "Even my father, and he's usually suspicious of everyone." Evan smiled, pulling her close. "Good, because I plan to be around for a long time if you'll have me." She kissed him, wondering how she'd gone from serving champagne at his gala to this moment in just a few short weeks, but their bubble couldn't last forever. The following Tuesday, Sophia was at work when her phone buzzed with a text from Diego. "Have you seen the news?" Confused, she checked the news sites during her break and felt her heart sink. There on the business section homepage was a photo of her and Evan walking hand in hand along the waterfront, under the headline, "Tech CEO Evan Reeves' Secret Romance with Server." The article speculated about their relationship, describing Sophia as the mysterious woman who seems to have captured the heart of San Francisco's most eligible bachelor. It mentioned her catering job, her lack of college degree, and the significant lifestyle gap between them. Comments below the article were even worse, with people suggesting she was a gold digger or that Evan was just slumming it for fun before inevitably moving on to someone more suitable. Sophia felt sick. This was exactly what she'd feared. Her life turned into gossip, her relationship with Evan reduced to a sensational headline. She called him immediately. "I've seen it," he said, before she could speak. "I'm so sorry, Sophia. I should have expected something like this. How did they even find out about us?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the customers staring at her. Had they seen the article too? "I have no idea," Evan sounded genuinely distressed. "But I've already called our PR department. They're going to release a statement asking for privacy." "A statement?" The formality of it made everything worse somehow. "Evan, this is exactly why people like us why we can't." "Don't say that," he interrupted. "This doesn't change anything between us." But it had. By the time Sophia finished her shift, 3 more articles had appeared online, one with pictures of her apartment building and speculation about her family situation. Reporters were waiting outside the diner, calling her name as she rushed to her bus. At home, she found Diego keeping watch at the window. "There are 2 news vans outside," he said. "Dad's freaking out a little." Sophia found her father in the living room, watching a local news segment that was showing her high school yearbook photo alongside pictures of Evan at various business events. "They're calling you his mysterious girlfriend," Manuel said, his expression unreadable. "Is it serious, Sophia, with this man?" "I thought it might be," she admitted, sinking onto the couch. But now, her phone rang. Evan again calling to check on her. "Are you okay? Do you want me to come over?" "No," she said quickly. "That would just make it worse." "Then let me send a car for you. You can stay at my place until this dies down." "And hide? Like I've done something wrong?" Sophia felt anger rising through her fear. "I'm not ashamed of who I am, Evan." "Of course not, I'm not either," he said. "I just want to protect you." "I don't need protection," she said. "I need privacy. I need my life back." Over the next few days, the situation only escalated. More details about Sophia's life appeared in the press: how she dropped out of architecture school to care for her family, her multiple jobs, even interviews with old classmates she barely remembered. Evan was photographed everywhere he went, reporters shouting questions about when he'd propose, or if Sophia would become the new First Lady of Tech. The final straw came when Lucia called in tears from school. Someone had shown her an online article titled, "Is Sophia Aranda good enough for Evan Reeve?" with a poll where readers could vote yes or no. That night, Sophia texted Evan asking to meet at their usual cafe after closing time. The owner, who'd become friendly with them, agreed to let them use the space privately. When Evan arrived, his face showed the strain of the past few days. "I've missed you," he said, moving to embrace her. Sophia stepped back. "We need to talk." He stopped, his expression falling. "You're ending this." "I have to," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "This isn't just about me, Evan. It's affecting my family." "Lucia came home crying today. Reporters are following Diego to school. My father's blood pressure is through the roof from the stress." "I can fix this," Evan insisted. "I can hire security for your family, find you a new place to live, whatever." "You need, don't you see? That's exactly the problem." Sophia shook her head. "You want to solve everything with money and power. But I can't be the girl they chew up in the headlines so you can feel human again." "Is that what you think this is?" he asked, looking genuinely hurt. "Some kind of experiment for me?" "I don't know what it is anymore," she said honestly. "But I know what it's becoming. A circus that's hurting the people I love most." "I love you," Evan said suddenly. "I know it's fast, but I do. Doesn't that count for something?" Sophia felt tears threatening. "It counts for everything. That's why this hurts so much." She stood, gathering her courage. "Goodbye, Evan." He didn't try to stop her as she walked out, though she could feel his eyes following her until the door closed between them. Outside, mercifully, there were no reporters. They hadn't discovered this place yet. Sophia walked home alone, tears finally falling freely. At home, her family was waiting up, concern on their faces. "It's over," she said simply. "I ended it." Diego started to protest, but Manuel silenced him with a look. "Come here, mijija." "Her," father said, opening his arms. Sophia knelt beside his wheelchair and let him hold her as she cried, feeling like a little girl again. "I thought he might be different," she whispered. "Maybe he was," Manuel said gently. "But sometimes even good things come at the wrong time." The next morning, Sophia called in sick to work, something she never did. She needed a day to just breathe, to process the whirlwind romance that had crashed as quickly as it had begun around Shaul. Noon, her phone buzzed with a text from Evan. "I respect your decision, but please know that what we had was real for me. If you ever change your mind, I'll be waiting." She didn't respond. Couldn't. The wound was still too fresh. In the days that followed, the media lost interest when there was nothing new to report. Evan released a brief statement asking for privacy, then disappeared from public view. Sophia returned to her routine, work, family responsibilities. But everything felt different now. Emptier somehow, as if Evan had taken part of her with him when he left. 2 weeks after their breakup, Diego came home with an envelope. "This was taped to our mailbox," he said, handing it to Sophia. "It has your name on it." Inside was a community newsletter and a sticky note that read, "Page 3, E." With trembling fingers, Sophia turned to the page. There, in the community announcements section, was a notice about an upcoming groundbreaking ceremony for a new housing project in their neighborhood. The Aranda Housing Project, a place to come home to. Sophia stared at the newsletter, her hands trembling. The Aranda Housing Project. It couldn't be a coincidence. What is it? Diego asked, peering over her shoulder. I'm not sure, she whispered, reading the brief announcement again. The groundbreaking ceremony was scheduled for the following Saturday, at 10 a.m., at an empty lot just 6 blocks from their apartment, a lot that had been abandoned for years. Are you going to go? Diego asked. Sophia folded the newsletter carefully. I don't know, but she did know. Despite everything, the pain of their breakup, the humiliation of the media attention, the fear of being hurt again, she had to see what this was about. All week she found herself distracted at work, thinking about the upcoming ceremony. What did it mean? Was this Evan's way of apologizing? Or something more? When Saturday morning arrived, Sophia dressed with unusual care. Nothing fancy, but the blue dress that Evan had once said brought out the warmth in her eyes. Diego insisted on coming with her, and after a moment's hesitation, she agreed. She might need the moral support. Should we bring Dad and Lucia too? Diego asked as they prepared to leave. Sophia hesitated. Let's see what this is about first. The empty lot had been transformed overnight. A small stage had been set up at one end with rows of folding chairs facing it. A large sign displayed architectural renderings of what looked like a modern, attractive apartment complex. Beside it, the name Aranda Housing Project was displayed prominently. Around 50 people had gathered. Neighborhood residents, few city officials in suits, and what looked like construction workers and architects with their blueprint tubes and tablets. Sophia and Diego found seats in the back row. She scanned the crowd nervously but didn't see Evan anywhere. At exactly 10 a.m., an older woman in a business suit approached the podium. Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Castillo, Director of Community Development for the City of San Francisco. We're here today to celebrate the groundbreaking of an exciting new project, affordable housing, designed specifically for families in our community. Sophia listened with growing confusion as Ms. Castillo described the project. 20 units of below-market housing, with priority given to families with disabled members, single parents, and those working in education and healthcare. This project represents a new model of community-oriented development, Ms. Castillo continued. The design prioritizes shared spaces, accessibility and sustainability, truly a place for people to come home to. Sophia's breath caught at the familiar phrase, her own words, spoken to Evan that first night at the gala. But still, he was nowhere to be seen. We're particularly excited about the innovative design, Ms. Castillo said. And for that, I'd like to introduce the architect whose vision brought this project to life. Sophia expected to see some established professional walk to the stage. Instead, Ms. Castillo held up a worn folder. Unfortunately, the designer couldn't be here in person today, but these preliminary sketches were the inspiration for the entire project. On the screen behind her appeared a familiar image, Sophia's second-year community center design, adapted and expanded into a residential complex. Her design, her work. How? Diego whispered beside her. Sophia, that's yours. She couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe properly as Ms. Castillo continued. These concepts came to us through an anonymous donor who has fully funded this project. The donor's only stipulations were that the housing prioritize families in need, that it be named the Aranda Housing Project, and that these original design elements be preserved. Tears filled Sophia's eyes. Evan had done this. He hadn't tried to buy her back or impress her with his wealth. Instead, he'd found a way to give her dream back to her, not as a gift that would put her in his debt, but as something that belonged to her all along. After the ceremony, as people mingled and examined the display boards, Sophia approached Ms. Castillo. Excuse me, she said hesitantly. I'm Sophia Aranda. Recognition flashed in the woman's eyes. Ms. Aranda, we've been hoping you might attend. Your preliminary work was quite remarkable. Thank you, but I don't understand how you got my designs. They were school projects from years ago. Ms. Castillo smiled. As I mentioned, our donor provided them. I'm not at liberty to disclose the donor's identity, but I can tell you that they spoke very highly of your architectural vision. She pulled a business card from her pocket. Actually, we were hoping to discuss something with you. The development firm managing this project has a new internship program for promising designers without formal degrees. It includes flexible hours and tuition assistance to complete architectural studies. Sophia took the card, her hand unsteady. Are you offering me a job? An opportunity, Ms. Castillo corrected, based solely on the merit of your work. If you're interested, call to that number on Monday. As the woman moved away to speak with others, Diego grabbed Sophia's arm. Did that just happen? Did you just get offered a job designing buildings? I think so, Sophia said, still dazed. But I don't understand how Evan found my old projects. They were in storage at my school. Does it matter? Diego asked. This is your dream, Sophia. He found a way to give it back to you. She looked around at the bustling scene, people excitedly discussing the housing that would rise from this empty lot, housing based on her ideas of what made a place feel like home. I need to find him, she said suddenly. I need to thank him, at least. I don't think he's here, Diego said, scanning the crowd, but maybe. He pointed to a man standing alone near the back of the lot, partially hidden by a large oak tree. He wasn't dressed like the officials or construction team, just jeans and a simple button-down shirt, much like he'd worn on their first coffee. Date, Evan. Go, Diego urged, giving her a gentle push. I'll wait here. Sophia walked across the lot, her heart pounding. Evan watched her approach, his expression both hopeful and uncertain. You came, he said when she reached him, just as he had outside the cafe on their first real date. The Aranda housing project, she said, unable to keep the emotion from her voice. How did you even find my old designs? I called your school, he admitted. Told them I was considering funding a scholarship in your name and wanted to see your work. They had everything in their archives. But why do this, she asked, after I ended things between us? Evan's eyes were steady on hers. Because you were right, Sophia. I was trying to solve everything with money and power. I wanted to protect you from the world instead of helping you change it. He gestured toward the lot. This isn't about us. It's about your vision. Homes, not towers. Places where people feel safe to come back to. Tears filled her eyes. You remembered. Every word, he said softly. These past weeks without you. I've been thinking about what really matters. Not my company, or my status, or what people say. About us online, what matters is building something real. He took a deep breath. I don't want to fix your life, Sophia. I want to be part of it, whatever that looks like. She studied his face, the sincerity in his eyes, the nervous way he waited for her response. This wasn't the powerful CEO trying to impress her. This was just Evan, the man who'd asked her about destiny and listened when she talked about home, the key. Media attention, she began, but he shook his head. I've stepped back from public appearances. Let my COO become the face of the company for now. I'm just focused on the work that matters, including this project. And what about your world? Your friends? Won't they think? I don't care what they think, he interrupted gently. I care what you think, what your family thinks, the people who actually know me, not just my net worth or my job title. He reached for her hand, stopping just short of taking it. I miss you, Sophia. Every day. She closed the distance between them, threading her fingers through his. I missed you too. His smile, that same warm, real smile that had first surprised her at the gala, made her heart jump. So what happens now? She asked. That's up to you, Evan said. But I have some ideas, if you're willing to hear them. She nodded. First, he said, you call that number on Monday and accept that internship. It's legitimate. I just made sure they saw your work. And then? Then we take things one day at a time, he said. No pressure, no expectations, just us figuring out what works for both our worlds. And the media? She asked, the memory of those awful headlines still fresh. They'll find something else to talk about, Evan said confidently. And if they don't, we'll deal with it together. But I won't hide what I feel for you, Sophia. Not anymore. She took a deep breath. And what do you feel? Instead of answering immediately, Evan led her toward a small bench at the edge of the lot, underneath the oak tree. As they sat down, Sophia noticed something engraved on the backrest, a quote she'd mentioned to him on their third date, from her favorite book about architecture. Home is not a place, it's a feeling. You had this put here? She asked, running her fingers over the engraved words. Last week, he admitted. I wanted something of you to be part of this place, even if you never came back to me. The simple gesture touched her more deeply than any grand romantic gesture could have. This was Evan understanding what mattered to her, honoring her ideas rather than trying to overshadow them. To answer your question, he said, taking her hand again. I love you, Sophia Aranda, not because I need saving from my world or because you're different from anyone I've known before. I love you because you see what really matters, in buildings, in people, in life. You make me want to build something that lasts. Sophia felt tears threatening again, but these were different from the ones she'd shed after their breakup. These were tears of possibility, of hope. I love you too, she said, the words feeling both terrifying and completely right. But I'm scared, Evan. Love isn't always enough in the real world. Then we'll build our own world, he said simply. One day at a time, one brick at a time, like any good architect would. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But instead, Sophia closed the distance between them, kissing him with all the emotion she'd held back. These past weeks, when they parted, she saw Diego watching from across the lot, giving her an enthusiastic thumbs up that made her laugh. My family is never going to let me hear the end of this, she said, wiping away a happy tear. Speaking of your family, Evan said, I was hoping you might bring them to dinner tonight. All of them. Dinner where? My place, he said. It's time. You saw where I live. And time I cooked for all of you. You cook? She asked skeptically. I'm learning, he admitted with a grin, though I did order backup takeout just in case. Sophia laughed, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. Honesty, I like that in a man. Good, he said, standing and pulling her up with him, because I plan to be honest with you every day for as long as you'll have me. As they walked back, across the lot toward Diego, Sophia looked at the architectural renderings one more time. Buildings inspired by her designs, soon to become real homes for people who needed them. Do you believe in destiny now? Evan asked softly. Sophia smiled, brushing dust from her sleeve, and answered, I believe in blueprints. But you? You're the surprise detail I never planned for. He laughed, pulling her close. I can live with that. Diego greeted them with a knowing smile. So I'm guessing we need to set an extra place for dinner tonight. Actually, Sophia said, looking up at Evan, we've been invited out. All of us? Diego asked, his eyes widening. All of you, Evan confirmed. It's time I showed Sophia where I live, and time we all got to know each other better, Sophia added, if we're going to be building something together. As they left the lot, Sophia looked back one last time at the sign, Aranda Housing Project, a place to come home to. The project would take months to complete, the buildings rising slowly from foundation to framework to finished homes. But some homes, she was beginning to understand, weren't made of concrete and glass at all. They were built of moments like this, of people who saw you for who you truly were, who helped you believe in your own dreams again. That evening, as Evan helped her father from the car into the converted warehouse where he lived, a warm, open space filled with books and plants and simple, beautiful furniture, Sophia knew she had found that kind of home. Later, after a dinner filled with laughter and stories, after Diego had grilled Evan about his intentions, and Lucia had shown him every sketch in her portfolio, and Manuel had finally given his gruff approval, Sophia stood with Evan on his balcony overlooking the city. Happy? He asked, his arm around her waist. More than I thought possible, she admitted, but I still have questions. About? Everything. How we make this work, where we go from here, whether love is enough. Evan turned her to face him. I don't have all the answers, he said honestly, but I know this, what we have is real, and real things can be built on day by day, choice by choice. He smiled. Isn't that what good architecture is about? Creating something solid enough to last but flexible enough to grow. Sophia nodded, leaning into his embrace. One blueprint at a time. One blueprint at a time, he agreed. Behind them, through the open door, they could hear her family, Diego, explaining his college plans to Evan's fascinated housekeeper, Lucia exclaiming over the original artwork on the walls, Manuel laughing at something on the television. Two worlds coming together, not without challenges ahead, not without compromises and adjustments and probably a few more headlines to weather, but possible, real. Sophia had spent years believing that dreams had to wait, that life wasn't a fairy tale, that people like her didn't end up with people like Evan Reeve. But standing there with his arms around her, watching the sunset paint, the city gold, the same city where she would soon help design real homes for real families, she allowed herself to believe in something else, not destiny exactly, but possibility. The kind that came, sometimes, from one sip of champagne, one honest question, one moment of being truly seen, the kind that felt against all odds like coming home. The end.